Hey guys, what's going on? Dr. Natty here at Myokinetix Physical Therapy and Performance. Today, I'm going to help you get rid of that tight hip flexor, the pain or the tightness that you have in front of your hips. We're going to go over that today. But first and foremost, let's go over why that happened. So the first thing, you're going to see that your hip flexor actually attaches to your spine right here. So when you have that tightness, right, it could actually be from your quads all the way up to your iliopsoas, which is the hip flexor that actually run from here all the way to here. So the exercise I'm giving you is going to be composed of some stretching, some strengthening. So that way, when you do feel that pain from sitting a lot, from running, from driving, you can actually do it on a day-to-day basis and you can actually gain your mobility and independence back, right? And another thing that you might not know, because the hip flexor is attached to your spine, is pulling your spine forward, and that could actually give you some low back pain as well. So doing all these things is actually going to help you feel a lot better throughout the day today. So if you are a patient, you're coming in here, and you have this kind of pain, these are the exercises that I will give you. So let's get right into it. All right, guys, so the first exercise I'm going to give you is going to be a hip flexor stretch. I have two variations of this, so I want you to actually try both, see which one you get a better stretch. The first stretch is going to be directly towards the hip flexor itself. So I'm going to have kneeling position here. I have something to support my knee. So we want to get the hip flexor right over here, right? So your iliopsoas is attached to your spine. So you're going to be right here, half kneeling. You want to make sure when you're doing this, you are actually not arching your back, right? Because people tend to do that. When you arch your back, you're actually not stretching your hip flexor. So what I like to do is I like to actually push my lower back into my hand. So that way I'm doing like a little pelvic tilt. I'm tucking my tailbone. And all I'm going to do from here is I'm just going to lunge forward without arching my back, right? And from there, we're going to hold this for 30 seconds, okay? And as you're doing this, you should feel some tension over here. It should be a good stretch, not something painful. If you have pain in your knee while you're doing that, just stack up the pad a little bit more so that way it's less tension on your knee. Awesome. We'll hold this for 10 more seconds. Again, if you guys are commuting a lot, you're sitting a lot, if you're an athlete, you're at school all day, you want to be able to do this as soon as you get out of school. Then from there, we're going to relax. And we're going to do this again for another 30 seconds. From there, I like to do 3 reps or 4 reps of stretching at 30 seconds for 1 or 2 sets. Again, I want to make sure I tuck my tailbone, and we're going to relax, and we're going to do 1 more here, okay? Same thing, tuck my tailbone, lean forward, get a nice stretch. Again, you guys notice I'm not overdoing it, right? I'm just doing it enough where I feel that tension right there. That's how the stretch should be. It should feel good. And great. So that's our third variation. We actually get your hip flexor stretch. Second variation, we're actually going to stretch the hip flexor and the quad because they're all connected, right? So you're going to need something like I like to use the med ball or a bench behind you. So from there, you're just going to place the ball and you're going to slowly put your foot up on top. And from there, tuck your tailbone and we're going to come up tall. Again, I'm not leaning forward as much because I get a good stretch right here. I'm just going to hold for 30 seconds right here. And again, if you have that anterior knee pain, great for you to do as well. Hold that there. We're about halfway there. Again, 30 seconds, right? 3 to 4 reps, 2 to 3 sets. I like to have all my patients do this, especially if they're going to start working out, doing lower body. Extremely important, right? And especially if you're on crutches and you're just swinging your hips back and forth all the time, this is really good to do. And when relax, I'm going to lean forward, take a break a little bit, and then from there, I'm going to tuck my tailbone 1 more time. And I'm going to slowly come back up. I want to hold that right there. Again, if you want to get a better stretch, you can come forward a tad bit more. Make sure you get good tension right here. From here, if you do it right, you should feel your hip flexor and also your quads at the same time. And again, we want to do everything both sides with everything that we do. And awesome. So that's it for the first 2 hip flexor stretch. And we're going to move on to some strengthening exercise that I have for you. Okay, so now that we're actually stretching your hip flexor, now we're going to actually essentially strengthen your hip flexor, right? So one of my favorite things I like to do is the reverse Nordic, right? So what we're going to do, we're going to get into this position again. Same thing, make sure you tuck your tailbone. We're not going to arch your back like this. We want to make sure we do this. We squeeze our butt, our tush right there. Toes going to be down to the ground, guys. As soon as you squeeze, all you're going to do, you're going to lean back. I want to hold this for 10 seconds. Like, you don't want to do too much more than that, right? So you should feel this opening up, and you should feel your quads actually working and shaking, right? And if you feel like that, that's actually how you're strengthening your hip flexor and your quads at the same time, right? So we got 3 more seconds here. And then we're going to come back up. And then each time I do this, I try to go 10 seconds, 10 times. I try to go lower and lower without compromising my core and my back position, right? So I'm coming down, and I'm gonna hold 10 seconds right here. You're gonna see me shaking a little bit. Then we're gonna hold. You see I'm shaking already. We got 3 seconds more. 3, 2, 1, come back up. So that one I feel a lot on my quads, which is good. That's what I want. Then I'm gonna do another rep here. We're gonna try to go lower. Notice I really engage my core right here. I'm gonna hold 10 seconds. Then we're gonna come back up. And we'll do one more, okay? Again, when you guys are doing this, I want you to do 10 reps, 10-second hold. Same thing, core tight. Come down a little bit lower. We're gonna hold. Then, boom. And you guys gonna keep carrying on doing this for 10 reps, 10-second hold. And then from there, you're gonna come up and we're gonna do another one. We're actually slowly lengthening and strengthening your hip flexor as well. So let's move on to that next one. All right, so the next exercise is actually come from some of the special tests that we do to test if you have hip flexor tightness or not, right? So it's called a Thomas test. All we're gonna do, you're gonna get something like a dumbbell to anchor down on your foot, right? So my foot will no longer move. The next thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna hug the opposite knee, right? My job is to make sure I slowly control my way down to the bench, and I wanna keep my core nice and tight and engaged, right? So you wanna think about bringing your belly button down to your spine. As you're hugging this, just slowly come down. It should take 5 seconds to come down. And then when you hold here for 5 seconds, you feel a nice stretch. Hold down the bottom for 2 seconds, 1, 2, and then from there, you're gonna tighten your core and then pull yourself back up. And we're gonna do that again for another 5 seconds down. This one's a little bit harder, so you wanna make sure you only do like 5 reps like this. Come back up. Again, come back down here. Then we're gonna hold for 2 seconds. Come back up. We got 3 more reps. 5 seconds down. Again, we want that knee at 90 degrees when we're doing this. Hold for 2 seconds. Come back up. 2 more here. Nice and slow, nice and slow, nice and slow. The slower the better. And we're gonna hold for 2. Come back up. And we're gonna do this on both sides, okay? When we do all this stuff. And then we got one more strengthening exercise for you. Now we're gonna strengthen the hamstring and the hips, which will also help you lengthen your hip flexor. So let's go. Okay, so the last exercise I have is gonna be hamstring and glute strengthening, which is also gonna help with your hip flexor, okay? So all we're gonna do, we do some bridge hold, get a nice box or bench so you can lay on. From there, you're gonna go into a nice bridge position where you tuck your tailbone, lift your butt up. Notice I drive down with my heels. I'm not on my toes like Michael Jackson's here. We're gonna go here, nice and tight. We're gonna hold, drive one foot down, and we're gonna slowly lift one leg up, and we're gonna hold this for 5 seconds. So think about squeezing this cheek, nice and tight, hold. And then we're gonna alternate, okay? Push the other opposite leg down on your heels, lift this up, hold for 5. And I like to do 5-second hold, 10 times on each side, okay? Come back down. Drive this up, lift your hips up, hold that there for 5 seconds. Then we're gonna alternate, again, push down, drive into the ground, lift this up. You should feel your butt and your hamstring when you're doing this, not your back, okay? If you feel your back, think about bringing your belly button down to your spine even more. Hold. We'll do one more each. Again, if you're doing this at home, I want 10 on each legs, okay? Hold. And alternate. 5 seconds. And good. All right, guys, I hope you guys enjoyed that video. If you feel a lot better after that, watch these 2 videos next. So the first one's gonna be the best core exercise you can do. That's actually help strengthen your hip flexor. The second thing you can do is actually a posture exercise over here that give you good posture, and therefore that hip flexor pain doesn't come back. If you like this channel, please like, subscribe, and I'll see you next time.